Buddhism and the Fear of COVID-19, a chat with Ajahn Sujin Borihan Wanaket and DJ Banchon Wichiensi, host of a radio program loosely translated into English as Sipping Coffee Beside the Forum. Prince of Songkhla University radio station, Hadyai Campus, Thailand. Saturday, the 21st of March, 2020. Translated into English by Rodrigo Aldana, assisted by Trin Pongpetra, Anne Marshall, and Azita Gill.
Ajahn Sujin, today in Thailand and around the world, there is huge anxiety and dread about COVID-19. We don't know what is happening or where it will lead. It could be a mild illness or very serious and result in death. There have been a number of cases of COVID-19 in southern Thailand. Thai people worry about encountering the illness when they come here from other areas of the country. Crime, accidents, and illness are dangers that surround us all the time. Now, in the midst of current fears about COVID-19, how are we to consider what is happening from the Buddhist perspective?
Let me ask you, in the truest sense, is anyone able to prevent COVID from occurring? We have to consider carefully to understand the root causes of things and realize that we have no understanding whatsoever that there is no one to do anything. Whatever arises does so by conditions. It seems simple. However, this truth is very subtle and profound. Whether there is danger or not, there must be seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and thinking, arising and falling away all the time, right? These cannot be stopped. If we cannot control even these realities, then how can we control the experiencing of harm? There is no one to do or control anything. The only thing is to understand that things do not happen the way we think they will or want them to. If there is a cause for something to happen in a certain way, it has to happen that way. COVID is a clear example of the timeless truth of realities unfolding by conditions. We need to understand that there is no one who can control. There is no controlling agent. Things can only be the way they are. They cannot be otherwise. When we no longer think of COVID, we will think about other things, and the story about COVID will be just like any other train of thought, gone and forgotten.
Fearing the dangers around us and then avoiding them, is that the correct way to proceed?
There's certainly no way to avoid dangers. If there are precautions to be taken, then by all means take them. However, we need to understand that they may not prevent contracting the virus. The Buddha has shown us the real causes, both near and far, for the arising of phenomena. Without a deep understanding of causation, we will always be fearful. Now we fear COVID, but in the future there will be other diseases. We can be frightened of everything because we don't know the cause for good and bad things to occur. That is, for kusala or akusala. Why does something good happen to one person and something bad to another? Why do only some get COVID and others do not? Fear is certain as long as there is attachment to oneself, right? Having been born in this world, one is fearful of everything. How much fear? Well, that will depend.
When I talk about not being careless, I think in general this means avoiding the dangers we fear, such as accidents, crimes, diseases, illnesses, natural disasters, and so on.
Did those who contracted COVID do anything to try to avoid it? Many did, but they still got it. Others took no steps to avoid it. Some of them got the virus, while others didn't. Near causes are those within view. If we are not careful and do nothing to avoid COVID, we give rise to contracting it. However, there are also far causes. Some people are very careful and still get the virus, while others are not at all careful and don't get it. Why is this?
I've heard that even those who are very cautious get it.
Wenn
In
ich
spite of
rufe,
being
dass
careful,
der
we can
piept.
still become ill
Ich
if there
muss
are
ihn woanders
conditions for
hinlegen.
it.
Piept zu viel.
If there are no conditions, no matter what, we won't
Good morning.
become ill. Our volitional actions,
Can you hear me
that
well?
is, karma,
Ja,
always bring
Clearly?
results. So there is
Yes,
always
Alright.
becoming something,
Oh, thank you.
from moment to
always
moment,
clear.
from life
All
to
right,
life.
thank you.
Whatever
Yes.
happens,
Ajahn will be
it
here
happiness or
in 10
suffering,
minutes, okay?
it's not going to
Now
be good all
she's
the
taking
time.
a
or
rest at
distress all the
Ajahn
time.
Dongluen's house.
Some people may
course,
have
yes.
physical pain
Okay.
and no mental suffering.
This
Others
this
may
weekend
experience
she will
great
be
emotional
here
pain
for
and
the
have
last
no physical
weekend.
pain.
Yeah, for this
If we
month.
don't know about
Ajahn,
causation, we cannot
And
know
next
which
Monday
causes bring
she'll
about good and bad
return to
results.
Kankachan
It seems like we
Yes.
don't have
until
to do
the
anything
3rd
at all.
of next
Because if
month.
something happens,
Okay.
it has to happen.
September.
It seems that there's
No,
no
next
need
month.
to try to
Yeah,
avoid
right.
anything or be
Exactly.
cautious.
September.
But
Yeah,
isn't
that's
this
first.
being
Not so
careless?
long.
Hi, Nina.
You're
Hi,
already
hi.
thinking in
Can you hear me,
ignorance.
Mom Betty?
In ignorance, we
Hello.
think,
Yes, I can
if
hear
that
you.
is the
That's
case,
fine, thank
then
you.
I don't have to do
Kun
anything.
and Marshall from
We don't
Canada,
think about
she
being a
just
good person and doing
sent
good.
me
These are
the
things that
recording
bring about
file of
good
the
results.
COVID-19.
Right.
When looking
She
at common
recorded
causes for getting
with
the virus,
her
we
husband
think only about things we
the
can do to
COVID-19
prevent it. We
conversations,
overlook the
Dhamma
real
discussions.
causes.
And
If the cause
she
is kusala,
sent me
the result will definitely be
yesterday.
good. If the cause
And
is
maybe next week
akusala,
I'm going
no
to
matter what we
upload
do,
YouTube.
the result will
The
be bad.
translation of
Why
COVID-19
are some born
in
with no
English,
disease or handicap,
translated
but
by
others are born with both?
Rodrigo
We
Aldana.
may think we will die from one thing, but in
Warsaw.
the end,
Yes.
we die from another.
I'm
Everyone wishes
what do
for
you call
good
it? I'm
things
editing
only,
it, making some
without knowing what
corrections in
brings
it.
them about.
I should have it finished
It's
by
a timeless truth
probably
that
Monday,
kusala
and
always
then I
produces
can
good
give
results,
the.
and akusala
It's
always
the
produces
handwritten
bad
because it's a
results.
PDF. I can give it to Trin
We
or
forget
anybody at
this
the
and think,
foundation.
in that case, I don't have to do anything.
What do you
That moment of
edit?
thinking
What did
is
you edit,
definitely
Mom
not
Betty?
kusala, because we
Some
don't
grammar
understand
mistakes
what
and
ought
stuff
to be
like that.
cultivated.
About
So is it
COVID-19?
akusala?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
think
Oh, really?
we don't have to do
Ah.
anything. Just let it go.
Did you tell Kun
Yes, this
and
is wrong
Marshall
thinking.
already? Or
Not doing anything.
No, I told
See?
Trin a long time
The
ago that I was
akusala
going to do
just
it.
goes
Oh,
on and
really?
on,
Okay, I'll
because
ask
there's
him
no
later.
correct
Okay,
understanding
thank you.
that
Yes,
abandoning
good
things to
work.
chance
When
or doing
Ajahn
nothing
does not
is
come
not
next week,
kusala.
do we still have a meeting here?
Like
Yes,
right now
sure.
with
But
COVID,
I'm going
people are
to
helping each other,
connect her by
taking
phone.
care of each other,
Yeah.
not harming
I'm
each other.
going to call her by
During
phone
times
and
like
connect
this,
to Zoom.
kindness and
Oh,
Zoom
kusala
room.
deeds make
Connect
things
with us,
easier,
Don't
yeah.
worry.
little
Yeah.
by
Still
little.
have the meeting, yeah.
On the
Yeah.
other
Oh,
hand,
that's
Anne
good.
will
the more
join us
akusala,
next week.
the worse
Right,
things
on
get.
Monday. She
People
back
tend
to
to
Kankachan.
forget
She'll
or
back.
fail to see that
She's coming back to
kusala and
Bangkok, you mean?
akusala
No,
spiritual
now
actions
now
are the
she's
true
in
causes
Bangkok,
of good
and
bad
she
results.
returned to Kankachan next
Instead,
Monday.
we think merely
Anne
about
Marshall's
protecting
here?
ourselves.
No,
But
and
does this
Marshall
lead to
at
protection
Canada.
against akusala?
She just
How
finished
can we
her
evaluate what is kusala?
editing
I've heard people
COVID-19 recording
about what is
file
kusala
with
and what is
her
not.
husband.
Okay, I'm talking about
Kusala,
it.
for those who have
Okay.
not listened
I'll
to the
talk
Buddhist
about that
teachings,
later.
and kusala, for those who have
English
listened,
or in file.
must be different, right?
Yes.
We need to listen to the teachings in order to know the depth of the meaning of causation.
Hello,
Even at
Carmen.
this very moment,
Hello,
there is the hearing of a
Nina.
sound. Can we
Hello,
stop ourselves from
how are
hearing that
you?
sound?
Betty, I'm
Impossible.
fine. Thank you.
Everything
Nice
seems
to
to
see
occur
you.
by itself or on its own. But in truth, it's not like that at all. There are sounds in the forest, sounds
How are
far
things in
away,
Vietnam?
sounds in
How's the
different
COVID
rooms.
situation over
But the
there?
sound that we hear can only
In the
be the
middle of
particular
Vietnam, in
sound
Da Nang
that
and Hoi An
impinges
is
on the ear
quite
sense.
serious. Yeah.
Only
Are
the
you in-
hearing
are
of
you
that
in Da
sound
Nang?
will arise.
No, I'm
Not
in
any other
Saigon.
sound.
Oh, you're in Saigon.
This is very
Hello.
subtle,
Yes.
and therefore it's extremely difficult to know whether the sound heard is the result of kusala or akusala action.
That Robert
If we could
Kirkpatrick?
split time into tiny momentary fragments, we would find alternating moments of seeing,
Vicky, can you hear me?
hearing, smelling,
Yes, how are you,
tasting,
Robert? We'd love to
touching,
see your
and
face.
thinking,
Well,
arising and falling away
Oh, there
very
we are.
quickly
Okay.
throughout the
Hi,
day.
hi.
Nothing static
I'm in,
or
we're in
permanent.
Turkey here. We
This
just
happens
just
so
in the
rapidly
cafe.
that it appears
Where
as
are
if
you?
they are all joined together,
This is
Okay.
all my
making it
Buddhist.
impossible to see what is arising or
Not
what
when
is
my
passing
grandma
away.
died.
Little Nina.
Anna,
Just
Anna,
now,
come
we're
and say
talking
hello.
about this story, and next we'll talk about another story. You see, the story we have just talked
Very
about is
nice.
completely
Robert,
gone.
where are you?
The story of COVID is
Turkey.
just one
Turkey.
story.
Ah,
If we are in deep sleep, we don't
Turkey.
know
In a
or see
cafe.
what time
anything.
is it over
But
there?
as soon as we wake
It's
up,
same
we
in
start
Thailand, 10
worrying
o'clock.
because of
10 o'clock in the
self-love.
morning? Oh, okay.
We
Yeah,
worry
yeah.
about ourselves,
Oh, no, 10
others,
o'clock,
or
same as Kuwait.
anything
It's
else.
10 o'clock in
However,
the
I
morning.
think that
Yeah,
if
you're 2
everyone
o'clock, right?
understood kusala
Yeah,
and
yeah,
performed
yeah.
kusala deeds, we would not be afraid of anything.
This means that the real
Power.
danger to be
Wonderful.
known is
What are you
not what
doing in
people are
Turkey?
fearing
Nina.
now. We are only afraid of external factors, afraid of
Robert,
change.
what are you doing
Am
in
I right?
Turkey?
Yes,
Holiday.
everyone is
Oh,
afraid
holiday.
of COVID,
I see.
but not
Okay.
everyone will
It's
get
the
it.
only place we can
It will
visit,
come only
basically,
to those with
in
the
Kuwait.
conditions to get it.
Ah,
Otherwise,
because of COVID.
everyone would have
Oman,
it by
or
now.
Turkey. So we went to Turkey.
Regardless of what happens to each
Oh, you have
person,
such wonderful
there must be
places to visit in
causes
Turkey,
specific
too.
to
Oh,
that
I love
person.
Turkey.
Yeah, it's
It is
nice.
very
Really
complex,
nice.
but gradually we can
Where is-
consider and
where is the
understand what we
holiday?
really
Hi,
fear.
Gabi.
As long as there is birth, there will be
Gabi.
fear. We have been
Hello,
afraid since
Gabby.
birth.
Hello,
No one
hello,
is
Kun
unafraid.
Betty.
The fears need not be great. They can be of simple
There's a
things,
new fellow
like
who
geckos
wrote
and
to the
ants.
foundation. His
There
name
is
is
fear because we
Theodoros.
don't
He's
understand
from
what we are afraid
Cyprus.
of. Is there any good in
He
being
wrote to the
afraid?
foundation. He's interested
Isn't
in
it better
studying
not to be
Dhamma.
afraid
And
because we
he,
understand what it is
I
that
sent
we
him a
fear?
copy of
So
the
what are we
Buddhist
really
Path,
afraid of? Or
and
why
I
are we
invited him
afraid?
to join our discussion.
In fact,
So
I
he
think it should be
will read
ignorance
that
about
first before
reality.
coming in to
At
talk
this
to
moment,
us.
there's only
Join us.
ignorance. Thus we are afraid, even though the object of fear has gone. When we stop talking about COVID-19, will there still be fear even though such thought has gone? Some will still fear, but others, with different things to think about, won't think about COVID anymore. We fear
So it's
because we
another
don't
5 minutes,
understand
is
the
it?
reality
Before we
appearing at
start.
each moment,
Yeah, something like
how
that.
it appears,
Yeah,
and what
5
causes it
minutes.
to appear.
Okay.
Why is
Okay.
this country, this person, or this thought the way it is? Everything. We don't know the causes for the arising of
I did
phenomena.
not get where you are. Which place are you
You may
now?
be wondering what we're talking about here.
Okay.
In
If we try to
Turkey,
consider the
what's
truth
the name of the
carefully,
city?
we can go beyond fear by
Eskişehir
understanding that if something is going to
Hill. It's a
happen,
very
it must happen.
small town, very
If it
nice.
is not going to
Which
happen,
country?
it will not
4 hours.
happen. There's no
Turkey.
one to make it happen.
Yeah.
There must be causes for things to happen to one person
Turkije.
and other causes for things to happen
Turkey.
to
Yeah,
another,
Turkey.
all
Yeah,
according
yeah,
to the
Turkey.
many and
That's
diverse
nice.
conditioning factors that arise for each person.
If fear arises again, it is
We're
not
here
the
for
same
2
fear
weeks.
that arose and disappeared
Oh,
before.
good.
And then back to Kuwait.
Fear can arise and
Yeah.
disappear again and again. Am I right?
Yes, there's absolutely nothing at
that's
all that does not
wonderful.
cease.
Yeah.
We understand that
It looks
cease
like you're in a
means come to an
factory
end.
there. What is that?
Here we use
It's
cease
a
to mean come to an end,
cafeteria.
never to return. Fallen away
Just
means the
waiting for
same
coffee.
thing. What has ceased or fallen away
Anna, say
cannot
hello.
be found anywhere.
Hi.
Like the sound heard just a moment ago. As soon as it falls away, it is impossible to find it again. Then we forget about it when a new sound arises and falls away. This is how the truth is concealed, moment by moment.
If that is the case, what's the real danger?
Defilements, ignorance. Would the Arahat be afraid of COVID?
From what I've read and listened to, he would not be afraid.
As the Arahat has no defilements, he's not shaken by anything because he knows that there are specific causes for every result. If the cause exists and the conditions are complete for the result to arise, there's no one who can prevent it from arising. Whether it's gain or loss of wealth,
Very good.
death, or any kind of calamity, no one can stop it. When it's time for it to happen,
Coffee
it
time.
must happen.
In which way are these
Oh, I
fears
love the
harmful?
coffee. Oh.
They are dangerous because we do not know that the truth, even
The
now
food is
as we
very
speak
good
of
in
it,
Turkey. I
is
know.
very deep.
It's
We can only
It's,
know the
yeah,
depth
it's
of the
nice
truth
weather
to
too.
the extent of our understanding.
it's about 50 degrees
As
in
understanding
Kuwait,
at the
and in
level of
Turkey it's
listening
about
and
where we are. It's
considering
about
develops
30
to the level
in
of
the
direct
afternoon. So
understanding
it's
of
good.
reality.
Yeah, that's like here.
The truth becomes more profound than we could have imagined previously. The depth and subtlety of the Dhamma, the teachings of the Buddha, cannot be overestimated.
สวัสดีค่ะทุกคนค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะอาจารย์
สวัสดีค่ะ
There's Sarah and John.
เชิญค่ะ Shall we start?
Yes, anytime.
Please start, Lynn.
Huh?
Please start.
Yeah. There was a question by Jeff, and many people will have the same question. So I don't know whether Jeff is here. It doesn't matter. The difference between intellectual understanding and awareness. And I like Ajahn's answer because I found that already in her talk last time. She would not give an answer in a theoretical way, but just the way it's understood by a beginner. Because when there are not many conditions, then there may be some understanding, but sati does not show up yet. And the understanding is very weak. Ajahn explained that very well. There can be already a difference that there is only one object that appears, but not yet so clear, not yet like when there is vipassana jnana. But it is not just by thinking, but at the moment of understanding realities, there is no one at all. I liked Ajahn's answer because it's not theoretical, but it is the way it is understood by a beginner with panya, which is still very weak. I like it very much.
What is not intellectual understanding? What is not intellectual understanding?
More direct understanding,
Of
not
what?
by thinking.
Of what?
Of whatever reality appears.
Now. See?
Now, yeah.
And who can make it arise? The direct awareness? Impossible. That's why if we don't forget that all dhammas are anatta, there can be a moment of understanding, not just trying to have it arise. So the difference between the direct awareness, direct understanding of a reality is not just talk about it or think about it, but from having more understanding, seeing all dhammas as not self, as not anything at all. So when direct awareness arises, it shows its anatta-ness as well. While one is thinking about how to have it, it depends on conditions, whether it arises or not. It's better than when one tries and then it's there, because in reality, it cannot be such at all, because it has to be conditioned by the very firm understanding of reality right now. Firm understanding of reality right now. So what appears now at moment of seeing, that which is seen as not anything, no table, nothing at all. It has to be developed by Sankhara-khanda, not by anyone at all. So if there is the idea, I can try and I will try or I will do, that cannot be conditioned for direct awareness. Even if it's arise, it's not the direct awareness, but one takes it for direct awareness. As long as anything arising by conditions, as long as it's not like that, it cannot be the direct awareness or direct understanding. Everything which is the panya will be conditioned by understanding little by little until the understanding of no self is so firmly. So the idea of how can I or I shall do this and that cannot condition right awareness and right understanding. If it arises, it's not from that, but it's from conditions as it is, like firm understanding of no self. So even at moment of thinking of I shall or I will, the understanding conditioned gradually to understand that actually it's no one, can condition the moment of direct awareness suddenly, immediately, unexpectedly by conditions. So one begins to understand more and more from moment to moment, but actually everything is conditioned. Each stage of understanding and each stage of vipassana has to be unexpectedly only by conditions, because they are all anatta.
But Ajahn, one takes it for direct awareness. So I would like to hear a little more about it, because I think that happens often, that one takes it for awareness when it is not awareness.
Okay, is there any hardness appearing?
All the time, but it is not known as it is.
So ignorance cannot know it. Only viriya cannot understanding it. Only from hearing that all dhammas are anatta, and that can be conditioned for more and more understanding from time to time, until no doubt, even in theory, that it's only a reality from hearing. And then when there is more and more understanding, a moment of direct awareness is different from all other moments, which is self. Each moment is self because of wrong view. But when there is a little more understanding as not self, it becomes detachment from taking it for I. Very, very little. But that can be conditioned for the moment of direct awareness to arise. Only that can be or will be conditioned for direct awareness to arise.
But you say each moment is taken for self. So it means really when one tries to be aware or expect, is that the meaning?
So just from try to do something, like to have direct awareness, cannot be conditions for direct awareness, because attachment is there. It's so very, very difficult to find the lopa, which is somewhere at each moment. We can say that, we can say almost every moment there is lopa. Only panya can see, can understand that it's there. Like any other cetasika, they arise together with citta, but it depends on panya to understand what is what. When panya attained or arises with the direct awareness, otherwise it's there, like phassa is there. See? But it cannot be understood as no self. And it cannot be object of understanding with the will to have it as object. All appears to have more understanding of anattaness. Otherwise, there's no conditions for direct awareness to arise at all. It's impossible, because there is still lots of ignorance and attachment. But when ignorance and attachment is less, just very little, but it is less and less from time to time, and the understanding of no self is firm as it is Satyayana, so at moment of direct awareness, it shows itself as anatta. Any moment of panya arises with the understanding of the anattaness. It just pop up or just arise by conditions, even panya.
You say every moment, almost every moment is loba, but that is very hard to understand.
Because if Buddha didn't tell us about this, who can understand the asava? After 3 moments after seeing, it's there, unknown to the sensuous object, or to the being I, or to ignorance, no understanding of that which appears.
Yes. Yeah, that is very useful that you remind us all the time of the asavas, since they are so subtle, are really hardly known.
So just understanding that actually there's no me, no I, no self at all, that will condition more understanding while we read about anything, any word. It's just that as it is, only that which arises and appears, depending on panya. We don't know next moment at all what would it be, and we don't know whether it can be object of panya or not. No selection. This is the only way to become detached from that which appears usually as something or self. It's the way to letting go, and it let go any moment of panya, which is aware of it, as it is, as just that which is there, not me, no me at all. So even now there is seeing. If there is no understanding of seeing as conditioned reality, there must be the idea of self and attachment to that. Because without right understanding, nothing can eliminate wrong understanding at all. And even the right understanding is not me. Not only akusala, or akusala, and or apayagata, whatever is there, it's not anything at all. Just conditioned reality arising and falling away all the time, unseen, unknown, because it cannot be known by ignorance and attachment. To understand that which is experienced as that which cannot experience anything at all, just that which impinge on the eye base and just appear to the seeing, only that, and then gone. See, this is the truth, the absolute truth. So it takes time for ignorance to be wear away little by little. That's the way to understand the parami, see? The satya parami, to be truthful to the truth that cannot be self. It's just our reality. It has its own characteristic. Without conditions, nothing can arise at all. That's why we learn to understand what are conditions for that which arising one by one. At moment of trying to be aware, that is loba. That's why each vipassana jhana can eliminate loba and ignorance from time to time, from level to level. Beyond expectation, how it is. Because just that which arises and experience, the first vipassana jhana cannot understand the arising and falling away, only seeing perfectly the difference between the nama and the rupa. Like now there is seeing, it's not the high level of understanding, that it's just sees, the function of that is just to see. That's all. Just the moment now, there's seeing, and it's that which sees. No one there at all. And it cannot be that which is seen, different reality. So a moment of seeing is so short. But even so, it appears as nimitta. All dhammas is shorter than that which appears. One can see how much ignorance is there from moment to moment, in a day, all day. There is doubt. See, Vicikiccanusaya can condition Vicikicca of reality at any moment, even right now, and even while Vipassana Jnana develops. At this moment, there is doubt about the characteristic of that which appears and that which experiences. How can everything gone, only one reality, only that certain particular reality is there to be known? How come only Panya of that level experiences that?
Ajahn, when Nama and Rupa are not distinguished, it means one takes them together. But how is that one takes Nama and Rupa, or seeing a visible object, together? I did not quite get that.
From hearing, studying, considering, that which is seen or experienced cannot be the same or cannot be that which sees. See? And when it's time for conditions, to condition moment of thinking, just thinking about that, it's only not forget what one is heard, what one heard about that which experiences has no shape, no form, no color, nothing. But it's the moment of that moment of knowing or experiencing. It's the moment to understand the characteristic of seeing as that which can experience. And we don't need to have to call it seeing at all. Just understand that characteristic which sees, not the word about seeing. That reality which sees is this moment of seeing. So it's the way leading to understand reality as no one, no me, because there is that which experiences all day from moment to moment, unknown. No moment of paying attention or thinking about it, just about that which appears as something all the time. And so one understands the Viriya Barami and Khanti Barami and Satya Barami and Adhidhana Barami.
I think, Nina, that usually if there's no understanding of dhammas, seeing as just that reality which experiences, and visible object as that reality which is experienced, there's the idea of I can see something, and it's all mixed up because it's a story about I having this experience. Seeing is seen as something physical, and what is seen is something. So there's no clear understanding of the demarcation or the distinction between the nama and the rupa, because there's no understanding of the realities themselves. So this is what is meant by just taking them together, taking it all as a story about things and people.
Yeah, thank you.
And on the other point that when Ajahn was saying earlier that when there's trying to be aware or the idea I can try or I can do, it can't be the condition for awareness, but it's taken for being awareness. And this is the point about the wrong path, the wrong understanding, the wrong awareness. It's all taken for being right. So it seems that when I'm focusing on what is happening now, or even focusing on seeing at this moment because we've just heard about it, or focusing on visible object, or trying to catch reality, it seems as though there is some awareness or some understanding, but it's all wrong awareness, wrong understanding, and the wrong path. So it has to lead in the wrong direction.
Very good, thank you.
It
Yeah.
cannot lead to any more understanding, let alone direct understanding or direct awareness now, because it's I trying all the time. The loba is completely unseen, but it's there at all those moments.
Yeah. Very good, thank you.
Even in a Dhamma discussion, if it's I'm trying to catch the words or I'm trying to get the meaning, then loba and I is there, so it cannot be the condition for direct awareness. And that's the point about the asavas, and the loba all the time. So even now, loba after each moment is seeing and hearing. So very common.
Can there be direct awareness without direct understanding together?
I don't
Impossible.
go.
That's why we try to think about direct awareness, but what about understanding? Without understanding, it cannot be direct awareness, because direct awareness of what? And what condition it to be directly understanding that as it is? Because right understanding is not enough. So it all depends on understanding. When there is some understanding, why can't there be direct understanding yet? Because understanding is not enough. So right understanding knows that it doesn't matter at all to try to have it or wish to have it, because all depends on conditions, and the condition for right or direct awareness must be the intellectual understanding firm enough to be satchayana. No change to try to understand, because that's not the way. It hinders, and that is loba. And the idea of self is still there, very strong, because the understanding is not enough. So all depends on understanding, stage by stage. Even hardness is appearing now. No moment of direct awareness yet, because understanding is not enough to understand with more satchayana of that which has that characteristic, as we don't have to think about nimitta, because it would be never the panya which can experience just one, never, because reality arises and falls away in split seconds. So by way of understanding the vara and the vara and the citta which arises one and by one, little by little, we understand that panya cannot just arise after seeing immediately. It's impossible. That's why reality is even right now, or when aware, they appear as nimitta. But without the Paramadadhamma, without the absolute realities, there cannot be nimitta. But nimitta indicates that at that moment must be reality, arising and falling away, unknowing all the time, so very rapidly. So only Panya can eliminate wrong understanding with attachment, little by little. Otherwise, there must be attachment to I just want to experience it, as one has heard. As long as there is the idea of I, it's wrong. Attachment is there. Wrong understanding is there. So that is a very, very fine and very, very difficult way. Only Panya from moment to moment can begin to understand how it is, how difficult. It's so subtle, but it can be understood stage by stage as it is. No one can change the characteristic of hardness at all, even right now, but not enough understanding for direct awareness, which knows that it's only there for just when it appears. And even while it appears, there must be the arising and falling away of that reality, so very rapidly that can appear as hardness. And this understanding will gradually, very slowly, eliminate the idea of self. Very firm in the beginning, enough to condition direct awareness unexpectedly, to understand the anotherness of all dhammas, even that.
Ajahn, I find it very helpful that you say all the time, Panya is not enough, Panya is not enough, because we tend to forget that. So we think we can understand immediately, but Panya is not enough.
One can understand by oneself because this moment, what about the understanding of that which appears as just that which impinge on the eyebase? Only that. See? But it appears as something because of the rapidity of the arising and falling away of that object, which is gone, never be the same at all. Even this can be developed until the truth can be known and can be directly experienced. The moment of knowing that it's direct awareness is different from while we are talking about it, but it's not yet the direct awareness of any reality now. Because what is seen is not as it is. Is there still the idea to experience it? When there is the understanding that it's so very, very hard, very, very difficult to really be the direct awareness, only by having more understanding, no expectation at all. It's there by conditions. So just leave everything, just hearing, considering, and understanding more and more about no self, no one, and no thing at all, of what that which appears no matter through what doorway. And that cannot be forced or to try to do, but by conditions, understanding what is heard as not self. No one can do anything or cannot make anything arise at all. And this will condition more interest of studying, hearing the teachings with understanding about no self, no one. What is the truth of this moment?
Thinking.
Right. See? It does not appear as not self.
It means we take thinking for self all the time.
Mm-hmm. And to know that it's not self needs more hearing and considering. By conditions again, see? Whatever appears by conditions. And it has to arise, otherwise it cannot be that characteristic appearing. Actually, in truth, there is no I at all. There are different realities by conditions, from moment to moment, from life to life. No one. No Nina last life, no Nina next life. There are realities that one takes for me or Nina. Only in this life, everything's gone. The memory of this life will be gone forever in next life.
On the topic of death, Ajahn, often we say, and you say a lot, one thing for sure is we're going to die. This life will come to an end. The one known as Nina or Sarah will come to an end. But in absolute sense, there's actually death at each moment, Kanika, Marana. So there's death of what we call Sarah or Nina at each moment, arising and falling away. So when we talk about going to die in the end of this life, it seems that we're talking in the conventional sense, the conventional meaning of death at the end of this life, rather than just referring to the momentary death. Do you have anything to add on this topic?
I think it's very important to remember. Otherwise, we think by way of situations and in conventional sense, and that happens so often. And then we forget about realities from moment to moment.
So the only way to understand that really it's just Nina or Sarah in this life and everything will be forgotten is actually just understanding about momentary death and how there's just seeing for a moment, hearing for a moment. So even for a moment, there's no Nina or no Sarah. We think there's Nina for this life, but actually even for a moment, there's no Nina or Sarah at all. So the only way to really understand about death is to understand more about the momentary death at each moment now.
And Ajahn also said there will be more conditions about the teachings, more interest in the teachings about no self. So I would like to hear a little more about it.
You see, if there is still the idea of self, we will read the words of Buddha with the idea of self, leading to more and more my understanding. But when there is no self at all, at moment of experiences only, the characteristics of that which experience and that which cannot experience, vipassana, no doubt about the characteristic of nama and the characteristic of rupa, only one at a time. What can be that moment? No one, right? No thing around, no world at all. Otherwise, there cannot be the moment of direct understanding of the degree that it appears as no self. No matter now we just talk about the no self, different realities, but I hear, I think it's there. All five khandhas are there as I. So just the beginning of understanding intellectually about reality, it develops from moment to moment unexpectedly, because who knows, the Cetasikas now arising, performing its function, each one, no one at all, but no attention or not enough understanding to know that. That's why learning more about the truth of each reality by its characteristic, its function, and so on, can bring more understanding of no self, of whatever is now. So the proof of how much understanding of Dhamma is now. See, we hear all the time, seeing is seeing, it's conditioned, it's not me, it's not self. But Panya is not Panya of the degree that can penetrate, or the moment when direct awareness is there, with some or little understanding, even its direct awareness, see, not enough. That's why Patipatti is the development of understanding with direct awareness at moment when it arises. That's why we cannot stand by oneself. Now, visible object or that which is object appears because of seeing, it sees it. Or hardness appear at that moment, there must be that which experiences it. But that does not show up at all when Panya is not enough to understand the characteristic of that which is different from not understanding anything, not knowing anything, the rupa. But that is that which is there all the time, from birth to death, unknown, only the object be known all the time. See? So from hearing little by little, again and again, over and over, all Cetasikas develop. That's why it is, all of them, Sankhara Khanda, not me. That's why we learn about the five khandhas. Whatever arises is khanda. Even now there is Sanya Cetasika. With each moment, at moment of something appears, and Sanya just marks marks and remembers instantly by itself, by conditions. And no one knows that it's there. Even right now, there's sanya. But panya is not enough to understand the moment of experiencing that can be moment of sanya, marks, or remember. For example, thinking. Think about that which sanya marks and remembers. Or the teachings of Buddha can be understood right now of that which appears. There is sanya. See, if we don't talk about sanya cetasika, no time to understand it. Sanya is not self, and it does not appear too. But when panya is there about nama, that which experiences, and rupa, that which cannot experience, not just from saying again and again, but from beginning to know the difference, little by little, it can condition moment of just being aware directly, the direct awareness. But what about understanding? It takes time, more than just hearing about it, but to develop at moment of direct awareness, on and on and on and on, by conditions. The beginning moments of direct awareness cannot be as it has developed more later. But it begins, and understanding understands. And so many things to understand, because lots of ignorance and clinging is there of that object. That's why panya develop around the lopa and tosa around. And akusa, ignorance, is there all the time. And panya is quite different from that which is ignorance or moha or avijja. And this is the only way. The fourth noble truth is no doubt anymore about the path which has begun from the first moment on and on and on, until we don't know when, only when conditions are ready for that to arise. Does the object now appear well?
Not yet.
Not as it is, not as it really is. But from hearing, considering, there can be the understanding of the difference between that which appears as something and that which arises in false way. Just very, very tiny hardness. See, at moment when it appears, not just the tiny one, only one, but several moments arising and falling away. That's why it appears not well, as only that which cannot experience. And we don't have to name or call it, because the rupas are different by their characteristic appearing. Even there are manodvara viticita so much in a day. The manodvara viticita does not appear as manodvara. Even in reality, there are moments of manodvara vachanacita more than other dvara. This is what the blind person hears about this, see? About the truth which can appear to seeing, which is panya.
For anyone who is not so familiar with the Pali terms, Ajahn is referring by the Manodwara Witty-citas to the mind door citas. So now it seems that seeing lasts. It seems that there is something seen all the time, or that there's sound heard continuously, but actually the sense door process is so brief. And then there are countless mind door processes, but it seems that it's that which is seen lasting a long time. There's no understanding that the mind door processes are far more common and frequent. Just one idle process and then many, many moments of thinking through many mind or processes, but it's covered up by the idea of something seen, something lasting.
I'm glad you say this, because I was just thinking about it and wondering why there are so many mind processes and unknown, but this is not clear. Yeah, it seems that seeing lasts.
It seems there's something, it seems that I can see Nina for a long time, but actually just one very, very brief moment of seeing of what is visible, and other cheetahs in that idol process which don't see anything, and then Bhavanka cheetahs, and then many mind door processes, thinking about the shape, the form, the color, the ideas about Nina. So that's why it seems that what is lasts a long time, but it's so very, very brief. And because of attachment, clinging on to the story all the time, clinging to the shape, the color, the form, all conditioned by sanya, which has marked and remembered those visible objects, conditioning all the thinking about the shapes, the forms, the colors, the appearances, the idea of Nina. So it seems that the seeing lasts, but actually it's all the mind door processes, all the thinking in the mind door processes that are so very common. Just like at a moment of, like with my foot, it seems that the painful experience lasts a long time, but it's such a brief moment. And then so many mind door processes, thinking about the form, the characteristic, the idea, the shape, the painful foot. So just one moment of bodily experience and then many mind door processes, but not understood for what they are because of the idea of something experienced, something seen all the time. And I was thinking earlier when Ajahn, you were talking about the attachment and how that's why when understanding begins to develop, nekama, parami, develops with it, just gradually renouncing or moving away from the clinging to the idea of something as usual. So gradually when nekama develops with panya, just gradually less idea of something of the features of Nina or something or someone that is clung to. So gradually less attachment to what's seen or heard because of that understanding and the renunciation of clinging that goes with it. But so very gradually, but it all has to be through the development of understanding.
So Ajahn says many times it appears not well or it appears well. So it will take a long time before it can appear well. That it is thinking of stories, that it's not seeing anymore. It's seeing those of past.
It doesn't matter at all. The point of asking is in order for there to be truthfulness, satya, at that moment, because otherwise it's easy to think it's all clear and it's obvious that it's just visible objects seen and sound heard and so on. But this is just thinking, intellectual understanding. Does it appear well? Is it direct understanding at this moment? So good to know what is known and what is not known. But whether it's long or short or today or tomorrow, it doesn't matter at all, because just one reality appearing at a time. And when thinking about, oh, it's going to take so long or so on, or life is so short, then this can all be with attachment and clinging to results, or it can be with wise considering. It just depends.
Comment earlier that there cannot be direct awareness without there also being direct understanding, because I think it's many have the idea that awareness is something that facilitates understanding or even precedes it, and that having awareness is the pathway to direct understanding. But the reality is that the two arise together, and there cannot be one without the other. So the references in the suttas to Satipatthana are also references to understanding, moments of understanding. So the one and the other are one and codependent.
So, John, what would you say? Because I was thinking along the same lines as you, and then about the Satipatthana Sutta.
Mm-hmm.
But hearing from you, I'm thinking now, what was the particular point of the Satipatthana Sutta? Because a lot of people take that Satipatthana Sutta to suggest first having mindfulness and trying to have mindfulness in order to have understanding. So, what was the point of that sutta?
Well, I think there are a number of suttas where the Buddha speaks about one particular mental factor, such as effort or concentration or awareness, just to highlight the fact that these are they're also path factors and have to be known and understood, even though all the time he's talking about moments of understanding, because the one cannot arise without the other. And so I would say that it's to help people, just like the different groupings of realities, as khandhas, as dhatus, as ayatanas, so forth, are just ways of helping the listener to appreciate the different realities that are involved.
In the sutta, he refers to sati sampajanya, development of sati sampajanya. This is sati and panya developing together. So even in the sutta, he doesn't just talk about sati, sati and sampajanya, understanding, and also talks about effort and other factors too. It's like in the Samadhi sutta, people think it's just about concentration, but it's concentration with right understanding. There cannot be any development of Samadhi without right understanding. So that's why, like Ajahn mentioned, if one wants to read all the texts with the idea of self, easy, one can do it. Or if one wants to read all the texts being about concentrating or making an effort. Easy to do it, but one has to consider that actually each word is about realities which are conditioned and anatta, and that right understanding has to be the leader of the path.
So I suppose change things by right.
Your voice did come.
A bit.
John, your voice didn't come through properly.
I said, I think it's just explaining the same thing, but from a different angle. When there's Dharma Sutra and where the emphasis is on right effort, or the emphasis is on concentration, but always the same realities, and always referring to awareness and understanding.
And in talking about realities commonly like the rupas. Take now the various rupas for body, for something. If there's no awareness, no understanding, there will never be any understanding that it is just hardness, touch, not my hand, my arm, and the Vedana, so common, clinging all the time to the different Vedana, the different feelings at this moment, taking them for my feelings that is so important. So he's just talking about the different realities in a day to be directly understood and for there to be direct awareness of.
Another possible explanation, Sukhin, could be that Buddha picks up things that are of interest to people of the time and uses that to explain about understanding. For example, mindfulness of breathing obviously was widely being developed at that time. And then he explained how mindfulness of breathing, when developed, can lead to enlightenment. So it's just a hook, if you like, for if it's something that is known about at the time and discussed, then it's a hook to get people to understand the importance of understanding.
Ajahn, it seems that we know that the texts are available, but it seems almost impossible that anyone would just have understanding by reading. Without a good friend like you have been for all of us, it's impossible to go the right way.
What do you mean, Kun Sukhin?
What I mean is that it's very easy to go wrong just reading the suttas on our own, and not just after having some guidance. We need to have it a lot of discussion with the wise friend, and without this, with understanding and correcting our being explained how suttas need to be read and understood, it's the understanding cannot develop without this side help. Just the suttas being available for us to read is not enough, it seems. And what I'm saying, that it's so easy to go wrong without help from the wise friend.
That's why each word should be studied carefully and understand it as it is, like just the word Dhamma. See, it cannot be anyone or anything because it has its own characteristic and no one can make it arise at all. And if nothing arises, there wouldn't be anything at all. So whatever appears now has conditions for its arising. From the very beginning, to understand that it arises only by conditions. Without conditions, nothing can arise at all. Is it true or not? Each word should be studied carefully to understand that actually, from the very beginning, the understanding of no one and no self and no thing has to be developed with the understanding if it is as it is as not self. For example, when we talk about Dhamma, they should understand the truth that actually whatever is real, it cannot be changed at all. No one can change it. It is Paramada Dhamma, the absolute truth, just arise and falls away instantly. So who can make it different? Who can change it? No one at all. Or who can make it arise? This moment we are talking and there are many things around because they are seeing from moment to moment so very rapidly. See? That's why all realities are unknown until the Buddha just shows us the truth of it as it is, as that which is not permanent. But before there can be the understanding of the falling away of it, there must be firm understanding that it is conditioned to arise. No self, no one, no me at all. When there is the idea of no me, more and more, from word to word, reading carefully, everything can be conditioned, firm condition for right awareness to arise because it is the understanding which condition the satipatthana or sati sampajanya to understand that, not just arise and no understanding and all, or not just be aware without understanding. That is not the characteristic of direct awareness because it has to be with panya only. Hardness appear all day, no understanding of any moment at all as it arises and falls away. The other objects are there, but appears like suddenly altogether are there. Everything is there. But actually, that is not true. The truth is that there is nothing, and then there is that reality arising by conditions and falls away in split seconds. Just this can be remembered, no change, and study each word of the Buddha to understand better and better why and how. That's why he showed us the way to understand whatever appears now as it is. If we don't talk about seeing while there is thinking and talking, who knows that no one makes seeing to arise? It seems like all the time, but actually it cannot be that at all, because there must be the other thing in between, like sound and thought, hardness, so on. Just understands firmer and firmer and firmer until it is satchayana at level of theoretical understanding or intellectual understanding. So when direct awareness does not arise yet, there cannot be the understanding of it's not me who makes it arise. It's just pop up or umang, just there by conditions, while nothing is there. If there are many things in and around all the time, there can never be realizing the moment of that which appears because of its arising.
Jan, I wanted to ask, you made a similar comment a little while ago, that without direct understanding, there cannot be understanding of anatta.
Just
Is that?
remember that it's anatta.
But still, the intellectual understanding is also understanding, no?
With sanya, not with panya. enough yet. But if there is no such sanya, no conditions to know at that object immediately when there is sati, which is direct awareness, they go together. Without panya, right understanding, they cannot be direct awareness at all. How can it arise to be directly aware? Because directly aware, to understand that object as one has heard. For example now, hardness appear. How about the understanding as one has heard as not table, not chair, not anything at all. It's only hardness, no one there, nothing there in it. From one object to another object, unexpectedly. So in the day, the beginning of how much understanding is there is that any time of thinking about the truth of that which appears. For example, when anger is there any understanding that that is a reality? There is the only idea that I don't want to be angry at all. See, no understanding, which is direct awareness. So how there can be no self at that moment? And direct awareness is that the moment of understanding that characteristic which is there, not other object. And there is no considering about it before hearing the teachings of the Buddha. And how long before it can arise at moment of whatever appears as it is, as not self. As it is means as not self, not anything at all, just that reality arising by conditions and false way that can be known by the highly developed panya. More firm understanding of no self at moment of hearing any word of the teaching, more and more and on and on.
So Ajahn, when someone is asked, is seeing real, and he understands intellectually that it is real, that's also by sanya then?
Certainly, because sanya arises with each citta. Otherwise, how can that be remembered as something, someone? So we live in the world of nimitta, the whole life, when there is no understanding of each reality as it is, as not self. As it is means as not self at all. And nothing is left, just arise and falls away, followed by other one immediately, instantly, covered up the truth of the falling away of the previous one. All the time, all life, each life, until hearing the teachings of the Buddha and consider carefully to not forget about no self, no one at all, no matter what is there. Just that, very temporarily.
Ajahn, you spoke about understanding with sanya, but you mean no awareness yet, but just this sanya.
Because usually one pays attention to that which appears, the object of the experiencing, all the time, not understanding that if there is no reality which experiences, it cannot appear at all. But one forgets all the time. One pays attention to that which appears because that reality arises and experience it. Otherwise, that cannot be appearing at all. Just right, like now, each moment, when it's firm, enough, it can condition moment of direct awareness. And what about lopa after that? It followed immediately, and doubt can be there. What is that? Even it has such characteristic, just like now. Hardness is hardness, but hardness does not appear alone now. But when hardness just appear alone, nothing be around at all, there can be doubt when panya is not enough, that even doubt is not I. See, it's such a long way to go to develop, to have less and less misunderstanding reality as something, as self or things. It's so natural, it has to be its way. We use the word in Thai, Thammada, and Dhamma is Dhamma, and Ta is, it's the way it is, as it is. It has to be like that. Whatever is there, it's Dhammata, its own way.
But to come back to sanya for a beginner, by thinking about what is heard, and sanya remembers, but not yet awareness.
But when there is more understanding of no self, it can be a moment of direct awareness with understanding. Otherwise, it's useless to be aware without understanding, see? So the understanding which condition direct awareness must be there from hearing and considering. Because you say that now, it seems like I'm talking, but sanya is there, each word, and think about what which has been experienced before, and sanya remembered. So it conditioned moment of thinking about that. Each moment, there must be sanya as condition for thinking about what? That which sanya remembers. So even now, there is sanya, but it's not known as long as understanding the teaching is not enough yet. The more understanding of realities that can be conditioned for sanya as not self, to be aware with understanding of that particular object.
Yes, I was going to add to Sujin that even for the intellectual understanding, the right understanding or the wrong understanding, that wise or unwise thinking depends on sanya, because it depends on sanya marking and remembering and conditioning that thinking in that wise way. And even when it's direct awareness, we read about Tira Sanya's proximate condition, the firm sanya, the firm right sanya, which conditions that direct awareness with right understanding. So when Sukhin mentioned about people reading the wrong way and needing to listen to Ajahn or someone wise explaining, it also depends very much on the accumulated tendencies, like in the Buddha's time. Some people would just listen to a few words like Sariputta and it was enough. Other people would listen to the Buddha a lot and still end up with wrong understanding. So it depends on whether there is the right remembrance, the tira sanya, the firm remembrance to condition right awareness and right understanding, or whether it's the wrong remembrance conditioning wrong understanding, even when listening to the Buddha. So it all depends on the accumulated tendencies, the accumulated sanya and the taka and understanding as to whether a little is heard wisely or little is heard or a lot is heard wrongly. So sanya is very important for each moment of considering even now.
Ajahn, I want to go back to the question of understanding anatta at the intellectual level. Because if you ask and talk with certain meditators, if you question them about anatta, and some say that they experience rise and fall and there's understanding. I mean, because of that, there's understanding of anatta. But I don't think it is true, because I think anatta comes from hearing and considering and knowing what is real against what is not. So there is a difference between, even though um, there is no there's the understanding that one has not experienced directly, yet it seems that there is some understanding of anatta at the intellectual level without direct understanding. But you're saying that it's only by sanya. I still don't understand, because I see a difference between the people who meditate and claim to know sanya and us, some of us here who listen to you and seem to have some understanding of anatta, even though if it's not direct.
Understanding anatta of what?
Of like seeing, hearing.
Okay, is that at that moment understanding the characteristic which is not I but sees?
No, but intellectually,
So,
it seems
excuse
that
me, so where is sanya and what is sanya at that moment? See,
sanya, as you say, arises with all chittas, so it's marking the object.
it is anatta as well,
Yes.
everything. But sanya is not object of understanding yet,
No, not
directly.
sanya is not.
But from hearing, one knows that remembrance is a reality because it's there right now. Remember everything as something. So there must be that reality which remember and marks that which appears when it hasn't been seen yet before. So to understand all reality as anatta brings about more and more firm understanding of no self. If we use the term anatta, we think that we understand what it's meant, not atta, no atta. But when we think in our own language, no me at all, it means no I, no one. Everything just arises and falls away. But it's not directly experienced yet. But if Buddha didn't realize the truth, no enlightenment of the truth, how can he thought about this so clear about each moment, the arising of which one from what conditions? Not just only one condition. So not just say anatta, but explain more, understand more about that which cannot be atta because it's conditioned to arise and falls away. Is it true? The truth is the truth, always true, never change. Even sanya, can it know that which hasn't been before? Can it remember that which hasn't been experienced? Impossible. But when what is experienced, sanya marks and remember instantly with citta, which is the chief of directly experience the characteristic of the object.
So, Ajahn, when we hear the Buddha's teachings, that seeing is a reality, uh, hearing is a reality, thinking is real, and that they all are not self. For some, it doesn't mean anything, but for others, it seems true. So, what is the difference? Is it not because in one case there's panya that understands what anatta is?
No, right, considering about that which is now appearing. Does that person makes it arise? Does he make it arise?
Yes, that's what I mean. So that conditions considering, and as you say, does he make it arise? He thinks along those lines with understanding, and that is that not panya understanding anatta at the intellectual level?
We talk about understanding rightly, correctly of that which appears. We don't have to name it sanya or yana or panya or whatever, but it's there. Understanding is understanding. It's different from moment of not understanding, no hearing about it at all, or just thinking about it as something all the time. So actually, it can be compared to anyone now always in darkness, live in darkness, no light of the truth of that which appears at all, until the enlightenment, after the enlightenment of the Buddha, and he taught what he has enlightened, for anyone to consider, to understand that correctly, from the very beginning to the end, more and more, seeing the value, the precious thing in life is understanding that which hasn't been understood before at all, as it is or as they are. Even sanya right now, see, before there can be thinking about sanya, that because that sanya as condition, there is thinking about that which sanya remembers. So sanya arises with each moment, but no one can understand because it does not appear only when whatever is object, the object appears. So sanya marks the difference between loba and dosa, see, and more from learning and considering the truth. So when we talk about the teachings of Buddha, we talk about now, always now, to understand what we are talking about must be true, so true that it's here and now, depending on understanding the truth of it. And what we are talking comes from what he taught, the Buddha taught. And anyone who consider rightly, correctly, can understand that while there is talking, there must be thinking, but that like things appears around are there while one is thinking too, but they are different. And who makes it to arise and to be there? Nothing at all. Learn to understand reality as not self. It cannot be taken for anything or anyone at all because it's gone completely. As soon as it's there, just a moment, very, very short, and then no more. Everything is like that, where was yesterday now. And just a moment ago, no matter it's sound or thought or like or dislike, they're gone. As soon as they arise, they're gone. Unknown all the time. So we understand what it's meant by panya. And there are so many degrees of panya. From hearing, considering, understanding, to directly experiencing with fully understanding of no one there at all. Because right awareness is aware of one object. Even right now, seeing is just an object very shortly, everything arises and falls away in split seconds, but they do not appear as they are at all until the teachings is there for thinking, food for thought about the truth of that which appears. And it must be now. Study Dhamma is study what is now. Like seeing is now, hearing is now, thinking is now. Different ones arising by conditions. And sanya is at any time, with any moment. By whom? No one. By conditions. Can anyone stop the arising of the reality which experiences? And can anyone stop the reality which arises and cannot experience? They are now. So, from hearing the words of the teaching and carefully consider it as it is, one word at a time, bring about the understanding when we are talking about realities, they are now. And this is the only way to understand and to know the difference between theoretical understanding, intellectual understanding, and direct awareness with what degree of understanding. It develops from moment to moment until it can understand better. Well means that no other thing at that moment to be understood directly, just only one. And think about what it's meant by only one. No world at all, no people, no things. Otherwise, it's not clear. To appear well to panya with understanding the truth little by little until enlightenment. Eradicate doubt about realities. When a reality appears to direct awareness and the highly developed panya as vipassana jhana, no one there at all. So the idea of self is eliminated from time to time from direct experience with vipassana jhana. And there are so many degrees of vipassana jhana. The first one is not enough. That's why there must be the parinya, the three parinya after vipassana jhana, which applies the moment of whatever appears by conditions. That which has been known is there by conditions, but it's not as the moment of vipassana jhana. But right understanding of level has developed in a day to condition the next higher understanding, the higher vipassana jhana. So the clearness of reality has to be known only by the highly developed panya. So very, very little at a time.
Ajahn, I was thinking that actually it does not matter a lot of things that we ask about, because in the end, the understanding has to be towards understanding what appears now, and it's never enough. And I remember one of the sutras that say that that even a Sotapanna has to hear the Dhamma and keep on developing understanding. But just now when you mentioned understanding till there's no more doubt, it seems that there's a big difference between study and the development of understanding while doubt has not been eradicated and when it has been eradicated.
Because you see that when we talk about seeing, there can be a little understanding of that which is now, sees, see, but it does not appear as just a reality because so many things around. That is why it's not vipassana jhana and why it's not direct awareness. It means that not enough understanding, intellectual understanding is not enough to condition awareness by itself just arises by conditions is there to understand unnothingness of whatever is there when there is more understanding. So there must be understanding with awareness at moment when right awareness is directly has that object as object. It's wrong to say that there is satipatthana without panya, because satipatthana is not sati at moment of understanding intellectually. And when there is more and more understanding, can you stop the arising of that which is conditioned to be direct awareness? No matter how much you try, when the condition is not enough, it cannot arise at all. And there can be more wrong understanding from, I'm trying so hard. And the result is nothing more understanding at all. Wasting the time. That's why we have to understand the middle path. Not me. Otherwise, it's time to have more. Someone is doing something to have it attached to that object, unknown at all. So only panya can have the lopa as object.
And so when you were asking about intellectual understanding of anatta, of course this is panya, as we all know, but it depends on what sanya marks at this moment and what vitakka touches as to whether the understanding arises, whether it's intellectual or direct understanding of what object at this moment. So if someone has heard about dhammas but wrongly, then, or even if one's heard rightly, but if it's sanya vipalasa, it's perversion of sanya at this moment, marking wrongly and touching wrongly with the idea of I can do, then it's wrong understanding. So we can see how intertwined they are, how they condition by each other, and how each moment of thinking now, each moment of considering depends on what sanya marks right now and what vitakka, which object, which concept vitakka touches at this moment. So
No, I think I probably heard wrong, but I thought the question was between panya and sanya, not whether sanya with panya or not. It sounded as if in the beginning there's no panya involved, just sanya. That's what I heard, and so that's why I asked these questions.
I think it was about sanya as conditioned, so without sanya, no panya can arise. But of course, sanya is at each moment, but there cannot be panya now without the accumulation of panya too. So it must be sanya and panya together for there to be the intellectual understanding. So maybe, as you say, it was something misheard as well. Don't know. And for the person who has heard about Dhamma but still focuses on an object or thinks that there is understanding of the arising and falling away. So it depends on the sanya and vitakka at that moment that conditions the wrong understanding or the doubt or whatever it is.
Ajahn, it seems that nowhere is panya being pointed out as the most important, the beginning step and the end. And that's why anyone who reads the suttas, they do not understand that the teaching is for understanding from the very beginning. It's all about understanding. So, what do we say to a beginner, and how is a beginner expected to go the right way, Ajahn?
There is sanya, but if we don't talk about sanya, who knows sanya? Not thinking about sanya, only intellectually or just from panjati, like, can you remember? Do you remember? We use the word remember, but we don't know that it arises with other reality, citta, at each moment. There cannot be moment without sanya. No matter it is at moment of deep sleep, it's there. See, otherwise who knows that I slept for how long? See, so there are realities, but they cannot be known without the words of the Buddha. There is sanya. Otherwise, no one can speak like this. But because of sanya of this, I have sanya of Thai language so much, but very little sanya of the other language. See, not enough. Who knows? Not me. But there must be sanya with whatever moment of experiencing anything, everything. So if we don't talk about that which remember, there is the idea of, do you remember? I remember, something like that, as I all the time. No understanding what are there in a moment, not only citta, which is the chief of experiencing the object, but also other cetasikas arising with it. But at moment of understanding the nature or the characteristic of our reality, there is no idea about vitaka or whatever of things that we have heard before, because they are conditions to understand directly, clearer, depending on what level of understanding, intellectual understanding. Even intellectual understanding is different by degrees. The difference between phassa and vitaka, see, quite close, but they are different. To understand that no self is there at all. Vitaka is vitaka, and phassa is phassa, and sanya is sanya, and vedana is vedana. See? No one at all, no self. Different conditioned realities arising and falling away, no more. Never to return at all, only once in samsara. But that can be conditions for other moment in the future as direct awareness and high understanding, not just intellectual understanding. So it's the understanding of this moment, reality now, to understand better and better that no self, no one at all. And this is the most valuable things in life, to understand, better than to have other things with ignorance. See, there is sanya at moment of thinking. You are thinking of that which sanya remembers. If we don't talk about sanya, there must be the idea of self, on and on, more and more. But when we talk about sanya, it's there not you, but it's that which remembers, that which marks. It conditions thinking at this moment of only that which has been marked and remembered. what is at this moment is clearer because of right understanding, to know that actually there is no one. And this is the point of listening to the truth, to understand, to enlighten the truth.
And as Ajahn was just explaining, the Buddha also had to explain what is to be the object of understanding, as well as the fact that understanding is...
Otherwise, there cannot be more understanding at all.
And there are many different... Sorry, Ajahn.
At moment of experiencing the truth, no thought about anything, just understand directly of that object. Nothing in between or around at all. Otherwise, it cannot be vipassana jnana, what is meant by vipassana, understanding as seeing, like seeing something in the hand, on the hand, closely. When it's far away in the plate, it's not as that which in your hand, on your hand. And no expectation what would be object of understanding even at that moment, because so short, and about that which arises after immediately. See, so many things. That's why there can be the understanding of the difference between the sense door and the mind door. And what appear well, see, no self is there. When it appears as it is, it's not self. And when there is thinking, is there any understanding of thinking as not self? Because it's thinking about that which appears. And there is the understanding of the characteristic of that which appears, because it is the object. But the thinking is not the object of understanding at that moment. So it depends on what is the object at that moment. And right understanding just understand that better and clearer. And so many things arising and falling away, but that those cannot be object at the same time of when direct awareness is on that very object. Only one object at a time. One is one at a time. So when it appears clearer, appears well, it's much different from when it does not appear well. Because so many things around that cannot be well enough, because the other reality appears too. So right understanding at each different level must be higher and clearer to eradicate the idea of self completely when time comes, the moments of enlightenment, the truth. That can be just at the beginning. Even vipassana jnana must be the beginning of vipassana jnana.
And your question about beginner and explaining the beginner, well, I think it's like now is the beginning. There's beginning at each moment. So it depends right now whether there is interest and understanding, and depends on the sanya and vitaka at this moment, whether one would like to understand what the truth of life is now or not. And different moments, even during the discussion, moments of
Panya
interest.
knows.
It depends at each
Panya
moment.
knows the beginning of intellectual understanding. And Panya knows the beginning of direct awareness with right understanding. Panya knows. Only Panya can know. It can be known only to Panya. And when it's vipassana jnana, the beginning of vipassana jnana is known by Panya itself.
So Sarah, it's the way Ajahn has been doing for so many years. Just point out the reality. and it just depends on the listener. If there's
That's
interest, means yeah.
So one can point out that life now is just seeing, just that which sees, not I that sees, and that what is seen is what is visible. And one can question, but it depends on the interest and the accumulation of the listener at that moment, if they would like to consider or not. If they have no interest to consider, Dhammada, that's how it is. But if there's an interest, then one can discuss and consider, and they can consider more. Like people who are here today, for some people it's midnight in America or very early morning in Europe, but there's interest to hear and listen. So it just depends on the accumulations, and all one can do is just point to reality at this very moment. And for everyone, it's beginning again and again at each moment. And as Ajahn said, Panya only can know what kind of understanding there is at this moment or any moment. And many moments, even during the discussion, no interest at all, interest in other things, lobha for other objects. So each moment is different. Just depends on the tendencies, on the sanya, the vitaka, and the understanding at this very moment.
So even for us, those who have heard for a long time and continue listening, we need to start again and again.
Beginning again at each moment. And then it depends each moment on who knows next moment, whether there will be any understanding or kusala interest or not. So I don't really think too much about the beginners and us, the non-beginners, or the others, because I think it's just different dharmas beginning at each moment. And just like when we were talking about the momentary death, what has gone, completely gone, who knows about accumulations at the next moment. Like even if we're talking to someone, it may seem there's no interest, but then they may come back and discuss later. And that's how it is for us too, moments of interest, moments of understanding, and countless moments of attachment and no understanding.
And do you know why?
The habit of ignorance and attachment is too strong, Ajahn.
Because it's only one, just that one in lifetime, no matter what kind of reality, cannot be the same. Only one, and once in lifetime, never to return. So we cannot tell the differences of even just one characteristic of a reality like lopa, see? Each is different. That's why it cannot be self or anything at all, because it's gone completely. Just be there for a moment and then gone. Completely, absolutely. Never to return. Each moment. Even Panya, see, beginning to be this level and beginning to be that level. And whether is it beginning now? Because it's the same level. So it begins and begins and begins on and on until it is another level of understanding. This is the only way to have less clinging to the idea of self. Only right understanding can eliminate wrong understanding. No one there at all. And this is like the key to understand the words of the Buddha.
But Ajahn, the key is also just a momentary
Certainly, everything.
reality.
Otherwise it is atta.
And otherwise it's always the idea of this person and that person and his understanding and their understanding and this. But when it comes back to this moment and this reality, it is the only way to understand Dhamma as anatta, no other way at all.
And understanding now is letting go little by little by itself. No one can do it at all, to let go of wrong understanding.
Alberto or anyone else, do you want to add anything? Because we just have a short time left, or Trin or Betty or Hang or anyone.
Sorry, Ajahn. I heard you the other day talking about internal realities and external realities. I think you were referring to the voice when speaking, and the chitta and Chitasika which speaks, but I couldn't really. Not really sure about. Not really sure about the difference between internal and external when talking about chitta and rupas. Can you repeat what you were saying the other day? Thank you.
Do you hear him, Ajahn? There's a bit of a noise issue. I think Alberto was asking about internal and external realities, like when we talk about chitta as internal and cetasikas as external, and rupas like visible object and sound as external, referring to the ayatanas. Is that what you were asking about, Alberto?
To understand the no self. So what is meant, excuse me, what is meant by internal?
One's own.
At this moment, what is internal? See, it has to be now, which is covered up, not understanding the internal and external. But when we're talking about whatever, it's there now. So what is internal now? See, otherwise it's only word, but it's not the word, but it is reality, which have to use word to make it known as what we are talking about, or what is meant. So internal means what? Not external, or what? What reality is internal and what reality is external, and why?
I thought it depends on my own chitta is internal and
excuse me, when we talk about a moment of chitta, chitta is the innermost. It's internal, right?
Yes.
Just talk about one reality at a time to understand what is meant by internal and external. When we are talking about now, there must be chitta. That which experiences is the innermost. Without it, nothing can be known at all. And cetasikas arises with it. And cetasika is not chitta at all. Each cetasika is not chitta. And when it arises with or in chitta, but chitta is the innermost, and cetasika is external. Is that right?
It's okay.
Okay, for chitta and cetasika. And what about rupa? Can it be internal and external?
Excuse me for interrupting. We're getting feedback from your microphone. Interference. Thanks.
Say it again, please.
Again, I think the confusion that Alberto has is because when we're talking about the ayatanas, like you talk about the chitta as the innermost, the internal ayatana, the
yeah,
cetasika
but if we don't,
external.
mention
But-
ayatana, but can we talk
Yes.
about reality?
But I think he's thinking about, for example, in the Satipatthana Sutta, when it refers to internal and external,
Yes.
and it refers to his, I think Alberto was saying, like what the chitta and chaitasikas we take
Yes.
for ours are considered
Yeah.
internal and the others external.
Mhm.
I think that's what he's thinking of.
Yeah, but we have to understand what is the reality which is internal and external from the very beginning. Otherwise, it's only word like this chair, not that chair, something like that. Our eyes is not the other's eyes. This is internal and that is external. But what is the reality of internal and external should be known. Otherwise, there must be idea as before, as I and the other, internal and external. So there are other meaning of internal and external, but in the absolute truth, what is internal and what is external, deep down to the truth of the reality itself, as not self. That which is not self, some is internal and some is external. But what are they? Because we usually think about someone, some people all the time, and the internal is I and the other is external, like that, as usual as before. But when there's no one at all, what reality is internal and what reality is external, in order to have that appear as it is clear, well, to be different level of understanding.
Yes, because that's just a conventional idea that here and there and inside and outside,
Yeah.
but that's why it has to come down to the
Right.
chaitasikas and upas, and which are the
Yeah.
internal,
Yeah.
which are the external. But I think this is where the confusion came up.
Until it's there as nimitta and banyati, as in and out, banyati and the absolute truth, internal and external, it's different.
So, Ajahn, I was wondering what's the use of knowing what's internal, external. But you mentioned just now, until there is the understanding that what is really internal and external. So you're saying that there is a level of understanding that knows that chitta is internal and chetasika is external.
To see the difference in order to understand deeper that no I, the point of the teachings is to show the truth of no I at all. But before having such understanding, it needs more and more understanding of the reality from the beginning to the end. Because without the understanding reality as no one, they are chittas, cetasikas, and rupas. How can there be the moment of having less and less idea of self? Why did Buddha show the absolute truth, not only the intellectual understanding or concept only? So there must be the reality which is external and the reality which is internal by different level too.
So Alberto, is that clear now? I know you're having some recording problems.
Yes, and Ajahn, you were also saying about internal and external rupas as well. I didn't quite understood the internal rupa and the external. Can you say more about it?
Eye sense, ear sense, the sense, 5 sense bases are the rupas, which are internal. When visible object impinges on eye sense, the eye sense is internal, the visible object is the external rupa that impinges, and the other subtle rupas, which are just appear through the mind, are said to be external rupa. So it's differentiating between eye sense and the visible object which impinges on it, and the other rupa which only are experienced by the mind or.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Very much, Ajahn. I think it's
My
time
great pleasure to have
Thank you
discussion
very much.
on Dhamma.
Anumodana, everyone. Thank you. Sawdika.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye-bye. See you next time. See you tomorrow. See many of you tomorrow.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye, everyone.
Oh, wait a moment. Wait. Okay.
ไม่ต้องก็ได้ฮะ
Hello, Kunina.
I cannot leave the meeting. It doesn't work for me. I cannot leave it. I cannot leave the meeting. It doesn't work for me. I cannot leave it. Very difficult. Something wrong.